Thank you all for coming today. Welcome to The Pillars. We are a community-led space aimed at supporting projects and educating our investors for intelligent, meaningful conversation. Here we ask the tough questions you all want answered. How do I want to introduce it this time now? I think I'm just going to say the mothership has docked in the Pillars dock once again. Today we have AJ and LA, both from EMP Money, of course, from the mothership of all motherships. I want Dex, SparkSwap, C2Swap, game that's also going to come in the future. But today we can finally answer the question of when Fusion. When Fusion has been answered on June 14th, when the sacrifice has been the sacrifice has been launched, and since then it's also been live. Let me give all of you a little quick introduction to the Fusion. I know Madhatter, AJ, and LA will definitely go into it a bit deeper, but just as a little bit for context, for reference, EMP Fusion is a project now that kind of connects the little different pieces that the mothership has been building over the last months and years. It's a project that is a single asset staking ecosystem, and it's working by a pool system. So there's a full pool where rewards are basically being generated through external revenue streams and internal revenue streams. And what you are then doing is you're sacrificing in that, building your own share of the pool, and then having access to those rewards, either through claiming those rewards or even selling that position. I think this is, in a way, the most basic explanation I can do, but I don't want to go into deep with it. I linked the documents in the community questions channel, of course, also the Discord. I want to say to the community again, thanks for showing up. The community questions channel is open, so I hope we're going to see all of you ask a ton of questions. And yeah, as you can also see, we have a $25 giveaway, of course, that's going to be announced at some point during the CE. And yeah, I think that's enough for me now. And I hope everyone enjoys.
Thank you very much, David. Very, very good intro as always. Thank you. Yeah, this has been a really interesting journey. I will tell a small story before we get into the weeds on what Fusion is. And when I first jumped into this space, when I first jumped into DeFi, I was very new to all of it. I was very inexperienced, and my inexperience came out often as hostility. And I'm sure I've told this story before, but I don't know how much, AJ, you might remember of the story. But I recall when I had an alter ego on here, jumping into one of the platforms, it was either Telegram or Discord, and having a back and forth with someone. And I was being quite robust in my questions, and I was being quite hostile in the way that I was asking questions, and it wasn't getting me anywhere. And you were very kind enough to jump in and kind of diffuse the situation and have a bit of a back and forth with me. I deserved the frostiness that I got from that point onwards, and I couldn't ever really engage with anyone else with that alter ego because the damage was done. And I had said to myself, well, that's not going to do my bag any good. It's not going to do my investment any good. It's not going to do me any good. So I need to take that alter ego, almost like a Slim Shady, kill him off, and then come back with someone who's actually going to be able to ask better questions in the right way that's going to get the kind of answers that I would want as an investor. And so the Mad Hatter, I suppose, was born, and this space was born. And from that moment, I had always said to myself, I want to, at the very least, be able to sit down with AJ and speak to him at least once about EMP, run through some questions, get the kind of answers that I'd expect, and do things slightly differently, make a different first impression. And not only have I managed to do that, but you and I consider you a friend in this space. We've interacted many, many times over, both on this stage and privately. And I've managed to watch this entire process kind of unfold in front of us. And it's been a really wonderful journey to watch happen. And I'm really excited to get into what Fusion is with you.
Wow, Madhatter. Yes, brother. That really means a lot, man. And yeah, I mean, I could not agree more. I think we have absolutely developed a close friendship over the last year and a half at least. And yeah, I mean, that is the whole point of our transparency. I mean, we do we get it right every time? No, but we're here to answer any of the tough questions. Again, whether it's your frosty approach or not, Mad Hatter, we're happy to answer it. And yeah, man, that really means a lot that, not only, we have grown as a protocol, but it sounds like you have grown as a crypto investor. And at the end of the day, I mean, regardless of its fusion or spark swap or anything that we come to talk about, at the end of the day, we are all extremely passionate about crypto as a whole. And as long as we can help people be more educated in the crypto space, then I feel like we have done a major service and truly have had amazing success, regardless of price or any other factors, for sure.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you guys, the success is there, and you guys are really creating something quite interesting. It's not often that you see people that are wanting to build projects and products that have utility that are feeding a central system, a central energy system, as you guys like to call it, that allows people to benefit from not just individual tokens, but actual projects that come into one. And I think really this journey starts now with Fusion from the external revenue stream. So I'm going to take a slightly different approach to this AMA because there's going to be 100 different walkthroughs that you're going to do. I'm certain you're going to get tired of them. Perhaps at this point, you might already be tired of saying the same things over and over again with the high level overviews and how it works. If people want to find out, you're going to be urged to jump into the EMP Discord, listen to the other AMAs, because those AMAs are going to give you really good breakdowns. EMP do their own AMAs in which they do a fantastic breakdown on how Fusion works. And of course, we'll get to the bits on how it really works in a bit. But let's start with that external revenue streams. Let's start with what's going to be the exciting factor of Fusion, which is what it is that you're giving access to the investors and what it is that they can be excited about that's coming in the future that's really going to propel how much they can earn through Fusion.
Yeah, I love this approach, Matt Hatter. Again, leave it to you to flip the AMA on its head and really do a deep dive, outside of what we've already covered in the other AMAs. So, again, just another reason why the Pillars is the best in the business, brother. So, yeah, I mean, again, this is so fundamental, and it's amazing that you started with this because if we didn't have external revenue streams, Fusion would have never come to life. And that really is the basis of what we have built over the last year and a half, and really transitioning away from the original Tomb fork model. And so, again, just to give a little background, EMP started as a Tomb fork. And, obviously, we picked that economic model on purpose because it was one of the very few economic models that everybody can truly win in the beginning, especially because we're making money through inflation. Now, unfortunately, that has a lifespan, and we recognized that early on, and we started planning to combat that right away, and that's when we introduced the other contracts, but ultimately, DOS nodes, all of those. But ultimately, no matter what, we could not outrun that inflation. So once we were below peg, EMP no longer was inflationary, and we said let's take a brand new approach and honor everything that we said we would in the beginning. EMP being the most sustainable passive income platform with exposure to Ethereum, and that mission statement is still true to this day. And so we flipped everything upside down. We had some of the brightest minds in crypto working on this fusion concept. And one of the quotes I love is that the math is unfuddable. And so, again, based on the math, we are able to essentially perform the biggest buy and burn in crypto history, and we're seeing that on the chart right now. We'll talk about the stats in a minute. There's some incredible stats already, but all of that would not have been possible without actual revenue streams. And this is something that we learned from the original protocol is you cannot rely on new users, what we like to call podsonomics, and you can't rely on the community making the right decision together because of the prisoner's dilemma. So the only thing you can control is real revenue or real yield entering the protocol, regardless of how many users there are or how many decisions are made. As long as there's real revenue, that will drive prices up over the long run, or generate passive income that is actually sustainable. So we have about eight. Yeah, sorry. So we have about eight revenue streams, and again, that's why we built SparkSwap and Swap and all the other platforms that people said, well, EMP, all they do is serial launch platforms, and they don't look at the big picture though. We're playing chess and not checkers, and so we had to put EMP on the back burner while we developed these revenue streams, and now Fusion is a massive success because of everything we put in place.
Right. And yeah, we'll get into those stats. I think you were quoted as saying not that long ago, 40% of EMP was sacrificed or has been sacrificed. I'm sure that number's a lot higher now. 50% if you include treasury wallets and wallets that you guys and teams hold, members hold, which is massive. That's half the supply already gone. And that's part of the reason why this is inevitably, and you've always said from the offset, this is going to get back to peg. We're not going to reduce the peg, we're not going to change the numbers to suit how we get back to peg, but what we're going to do is drive the peg back 4,000 to 1. That's what we thought it as, and that's what we're going to stay with, which I think is fantastic. And 8 different revenue streams, that some of which you've brought through our doors. And of course, there's going to be other things that you're going to be doing that are incredibly exciting. And what I wanted to do before we even get into the Fusion part is, and this is of course about Fusion, is a couple of those things that are coming down the pipeline that people can really get excited about. Let's start with the game. There's a game, you can talk a little bit on what Splinterlands, which was part of the inspiration for the game, generates in terms of daily volume, and what that potentially means for Fusion as and when that game is released and it's feeding into the mothership, as we call it.
Yeah, brother, I love it. So again, and this real quick, it segues perfectly into another thing that again, Mad Hatter, I think you were probably the first person. A lot of people say it now. It's become more of a mainstream idea, but I really believe that you were one of the first people to say this, and that is that it's important to invest in teams, not
Right.
necessarily projects. And a fusion is the epitome of that statement because by getting into EMP Fusion, you're getting exposure to literally everything that we continue to build for years to come. And it's our goal to just drive as much revenue back to the mothership. Like David said, the mothership has landed, man. So we're driving all the revenue back to the microgrid holders. And yeah, I mean, we have some established revenue streams already. Like I said, all of our taxes, we get a portion of those. That has already been taken out as well. So if you guys are already in those other protocols, then they are earning individually on their own, and it won't be a shock to the system, um, diverting those funds to Fusion because it's already been happening. But to your point, one of the most bullish things we just announced is a brand new real-time strategy strategic card game. So those that may be familiar with Hearthstone or Magic the Gathering, or more crypto-based games, like Matt Hatter said, Splinterland. So for those that don't know, I have extensive background in Splinterlands. I'm one of the original whales in there. I built a multi-million portfolio on Splinterlands alone. Right now, obviously, it's down, but fundamentally, they are, again, one of the most robust play-to-earn games out there. And, knowing what I know from that ecosystem, learning what, potential downfalls or, what worked for them, I'm able to bring that to the table as essentially the CFO. And then we have our partner, his name is Julius, and he is the creative genius behind our EMP, not EMP Fusion, but the original EMP Money site. So when you see the animations for detonator and reactor, you see the bond animations, all those were done by Julius, and he is also a very talented game designer. So we've teamed up and we have a development studio out of Thailand that has done multiple AAA releases. They've worked with Mitsubishi and Netflix. So we have, again, everything lined up to really deliver on this game. And I don't want to spend too much time talking about it, but it's important because if you look at the numbers, I mean, Splinterlands alone was doing about $1 million a day in revenue in the last bull run. So 10% of all yield will go toward EMP Fusion from that game. And arguably, we are hoping to have an even larger audience than your typical play-to-earn game because we will not be play-to-earn. We're actually releasing this game as a more mainstream game that will be downloadable on Steam Engine or Epic Game Store. We will have NFT elements, but the cards themselves will not be NFTs. So we're able to get around some of those listing, gatekeeping for crypto-based games. But it's really bullish. I mean, we've learned so much to actually deliver this, and obviously we're months and months away from a working product, but we're already well underway. We have a trailer that was released if you want to watch it on our YouTube page. But again, that's just one example of yet another revenue stream coming down the pipeline. And
Right.
Fusion itself is a revenue stream, Heather. So again, it's also self-sustaining just from Fusion alone.
Right. Yeah. I mean, a multi-chain Dex is something I've also heard you talk about. And we, like you said, we won't spend too much time talking on those. But if anybody's been following your L1X, L1 Dex journey and they understand what it is that you're going to be doing and you're looking into with interoperability, the multi-chain is not a million miles away from where you are now, and that being
For sure.
a massive feature that you guys are going to be able to utilize to feed into Fusion also, right?
Yeah, absolutely, Matt Hatter. Again, I think this is a great point, and yeah, we've alluded to it a few times now. But after Fusion, the dust settles with the launch. Obviously, we still support all the individual protocols, and that requires development time. But the next big project, other than the game, will be actually consolidating all of our dexes under one large multi-chain dex. And if we can use the L1 Dex technology, the L1X technology, and make it L1 Dex, that's what we'll do. If for whatever reason we can't use that technology, we have many ways of still providing multi-chain access. But the whole idea is that we streamline everything under one umbrella that we can really focus on, promoting and community building around one central hub, and then the earning potential is still there. I mean, obviously, we have to kind of consolidate a lot of the earning, like Sparkler and C044.
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, it's about building one giant multi-chain DEX that really could compete with the likes of Aerodrome and PancakeSwap and you know Uniswap. So that's the ultimate goal. And with that, we'll move to a V3 model of concentrated liquidity for all of our LP providers. So, again, that is a lot sooner than I think people realize. I think by the end of the year, we will be absolutely firing on all cylinders with all of that. So
That, I mean, that's incredibly, as you always say, bullish and very exciting. And it's interesting when I read through some of the comments from people that are frustrated that things aren't working on the UI, or the app is displaying something wrong, or why are my returns not as high as they could be, etc., etc. You know,
sure.
because of course you've got a history of launching something like SparkSwap that was very, very lucrative for people that jumped in very early. This is a different beast. This is a different animal. I was chatting to David and I was trying to come up with how I would describe what Fusion is. And the best way I could think of it is you're buying into a brand. You guys are really creating a brand. And, you know, it is like buying into PlayStation that is going to be releasing a bunch of innovative games. And the console is what's going to pay you out, you know, in game time, whatever it might be. And all of these games are going to start forming part of what PlayStation is. And that's the only way I could really think about it, because of course it's nothing like a computer game, but it's that brand and it's that access to all of the things that come out of that brand that I think is so unique with what you guys are doing here. And
Yeah.
it's all
Yeah, I
centered
love that.
around,
Great analogy. Yeah.
yeah, thank you. It's all centered around a central grid, and of course everybody has microgrids. And although things might not be moving at the pace some people are satisfied with, and you're always going to get people that are a bit grumpy about that, and we'll get onto the UI issues and the displays and what that's meant for you guys. But right now, there's also bonuses that can be had simply because EMP is not yet at peg. It's going to get to peg. Anybody that looks at the chart realizes it's going up and up at the moment. I mean, it's almost a straight line up practically. If you, I mean, these kind of charts are very rarely seen, and it's going to continue to go up because you are constantly locking away EMP and removing the supply. I touched on the numbers. I'm sure you can give me what the actual numbers are, but can you explain a little bit about what Fusion is, what it's doing for EMP, how much has been locked away in terms of statistics, and what that's going to mean for the people that are jumping into the central grid now, getting their own slice of a microgrid, and what those microgrids do for them in the future?
Yes, brother, perfect. So again, keeping with the EMP theming, again, I think we have made a name for ourselves on the branding. Again, you said it perfectly, Mad Hatter. Buying into a brand, we're always cognitive of the UI, the design, the naming conventions. Everything we do is calculated, and it
Right.
means a lot that you really you see that and respect that. But yeah, I mean, so everything is revolved around, an energy-based system. So the central grid represents the entire supply of EMP. Um, your microgrid represents your personal ownership in the protocol. So the very simple idea is that you want to sacrifice as much EMP as soon as possible to get your ownership in the protocol. And as you said, Matt, we're giving what we're calling a peg bonus because we're honoring the future price of EMP at peg. And the reason we're able to do that, it's not about creating money out of thin air. It's just simply displaying your unrealized gains. And once EMP is at peg, then it will be 100% true that that is the market value of what the ecosystem is, and that is the case because the only way to get into EMP Fusion once we are at peg is again buying EMP off the market. But at that point, there may not be a lot of EMP on the market, if any EMP
Mm.
liquid, and in that case, it drives the secondary market value where you have to buy a microgrid from somebody else. And although we're pretty well known in the DeFi space, once we start hitting the real bull run, later this year, there will be massive amounts of new people that know us, the track record, that have heard of our flawless rollouts. And that we're reliable and doxed and all the above, and people will flock to protocols like that because they're new to crypto and they want a safe play. So
Right.
again, the onboarding can only increase down the road. But yeah, that's how we calculate the microgrid value and the peg bonus. And again, the stats are incredible. So not only are we essentially facilitating the largest buy and burn in crypto history, and like you said, the chart is reflecting that. I mean, everything that you see on the chart has been purely organic. I mean, we haven't even supplemented the EMP side at all yet. So that's extremely powerful in terms of our success. And I just checked the numbers. We've had over 22 million EMP sacrificed. So that's another 2 million EMP even from yesterday. And again, that represents well over 50% of the entire circulating supply. If not, maybe closer to 60 now, because there's a lot of EMP that is in contracts that is no longer accessible. Obviously, the treasury, some team wallets,
Right.
that's EMP that we will never be selling and dumping on people's heads. So all of that is really powerful for what is to come over the next few weeks, for sure.
Yeah, I want to touch on that track record real quick. Zero downtime. You've only ever missed one launch by a day, and that was
Yes.
this most recent one. And that's the only blemish on an otherwise impeccable track record. And it was made because you were noticing some things weren't running in the direction you wanted them to run in. You thought they would, it would create some confusion or issues, and you just took the decision to delay a day. And those are actually the kind of decisions that you want leaders of the projects that you're in to make, especially those that have never had an exploit, have never had downtime. If they're not
Yeah.
making those hard decisions, there's a problem. So those are things that I'm actually very bullish about. It's when you're prepared to not hang on to an untarnished track record and say, actually, we're just going to have to let that one go for the greater good. I think that says something. It says a lot more about you guys, and especially with something as big as Fusion, a lot more about you than if you had just persevered. Um,
I love it,
we'll
Matt
get
Hatter. Yeah,
into.
yeah, totally. Yeah.
Sorry, go on
Well,
after
and
you.
just to touch on that really quick. I mean, again, that really means a lot that you say that because it was a very hard decision internally. We had been up for like 2 days straight, and we did months of beta testing. But when we go to actually deploy live, you also have to worry about BSC and the nodes themselves. So there's a lot of things that we can't plan for, just no matter how much testing we do. But yeah, we decided to push it. Like you said, we can no longer say we've never missed a deadline, but we can absolutely say zero downtime. And we've had well over 100 smart contracts that we've developed between all of our protocols, and literally not one of them has had an exploit.
Right. Um, Yeah, which is just, I mean, that's just crazy. It's really unheard of, and that's how you build a brand. It's through that consistency. It's, as you discussed, having a tomb fork that you decided to get back to Peg, and there aren't not many projects out there that are doing that. Um, you're always going to get naysayers, however, and I always ask some of the questions. It's frustrating because I look through your comments, and while we're talking, I'm looking through the EMP channel, and I can see people frustrated about the APR. I understand it, I get it.
Sure.
When I looked at the daily rewards. I understood that they're miscalculated. The APR is slightly misleading. However, what my question to those people is, if you're, I mean, especially you're always advised not to watch this daily, but this is a long-term play that's been made abundantly clear. This isn't something that you should be looking to get in and out of within the next couple of days, because EMP is unlikely to hit peg in the next 24 to 48 hours. And it's only
For
when
sure.
EMP hits peg that you want to start thinking about the gamification of your microgrid and selling that microgrid and buying microgrids. I always find it strange that people then focus on these things. First, I'm going to ask you why you think maybe they focus on that. Is it a control thing? Is it a fear or a worry through maybe experiences elsewhere? Because I think that's probably more where it lies, that people are so disillusioned within this space that it's it's not often they're met with a team that are doing things the right way. Even if things go wrong, they can own it and they're still going to be around. And kind of, what do you want to say to those people sometimes when you see a lot of that chatter happening?
Yeah, absolutely, Matt Hatter. So again, and I do my best to keep a level head and be as politically correct as I can be. obviously, I understand that it is frustrating to not see, an APR that is in real time. At the end of the day, it is extremely complicated math, and there is in no situation ever. And again, maybe it's me taking things a little personally, but there's never a situation that we are purposely misleading anybody. And I think the most frustration for me is when that is insinuated. But again, I do agree with you 100%, Matt Hatter, that I think it is a bit of a post-traumatic stress disorder of crypto, because people have been burned by protocols that do mislead their investors and have these ridiculous APRs that are never true and never sustainable. But you have to understand from our perspective that APR, and this is a whole separate discussion that we've had with the developers and the people that have PhDs in mathematics. APR is a very misleading representation of rewards, and unfortunately, it's the industry standard. But it really doesn't represent true yield, because again, APR is annual percentage rate, annual being the key word there, and it is nearly impossible for number one for us to predict the future and extrapolate the data over a year, and number two, we only have 4 days of previous data of what the rewards actually were to calculate APR. So in all reality, the only way to have a true APR is a year from now, and obviously, we can't have it be that vague for that long. So we're working on a way to calculate true daily returns, and then allow people to do the math backwards. But even that, I mean, I think that is part of the problem as well. A lot of people in crypto aren't willing to do the math on their own, or maybe they do the math incorrectly, and then that leads to even more confusion. So
Right.
we're working on a solution. The APR is very, very good right now. If you actually do the APR based on your actual dollar amount deposited and not the microgrid value, we just did the math before I came on, and it was still just under 1% daily. And now, obviously, that will come down over time. But the idea is that you aren't getting rich overnight. You're building a home base that you can earn passive income, at a very sustainable rate, that may settle in the 100% range. But even at 100% APR, you can't find that type of yield literally in all of crypto with the in a real yield model. So
Right.
those are just some things to take into consideration.
I don't think people quite understand what 100% return actually means, and I don't think
Exactly.
they quite realize how much that can be if you grow your position. And
For sure.
right now, I would be more focused on the buy back and earn button and activating that. And obviously you get your batteries, and we'll talk on why it's important to get those batteries. But I'd be more focused on that buy back and earn button, and ensuring that I've got a strategy to get the most out of that button, so I can grow my position while EMP is still on the table. Because the second that's gone, there isn't going to be that option anymore. That buyback and burn button is going to be redundant. You're not going to be able to use it. You can't grow your position unless you're buying somebody else's. And
Yeah,
one thing that you can
totally.
see right underneath the APR that people are complaining about is wrong is also how much your total sacrifice points are, and what that means in terms of a microgrid value, which actually you're displaying at Peg, which is fantastic because it means you're able to see what that bonus is. Because although EMP is not at Peg minute, you guys are able to offer it at Peg for very specific reasons. And frankly, I'm more bullish on that than I am on something that is a UI issue that eventually is going to get fixed. And like you said, if I took the time to do the math myself or waited 24 hours and then did the math, I could easily work out how much I'm getting daily. So can you
Yeah.
talk a bit about why it is that you guys at the minute are able to give the offer at Peg, and what that means for people at the moment?
Yeah, totally. So And twofold. I wanted to just elaborate on one more thing that you said about doing the math on your own, and that is the other really unique part of EMP Fusion is a lot of the rewards. Again, I say manually, but we're not doing anything manually. Everything is done through smart contracts. But there is a bit of a randomization to that, where we inject a large amount of rewards randomly throughout the day, and those rewards are based on the real yield. So that is yet another complicated factor when determining APR, because if you're looking at a 24-hour window, depending on that actual window, you may miss one of those large injections in the calculation, and that makes the APR look a lot worse than it actually is, and vice versa. If you calculate when there's two massive injections, then it's a lot higher than in reality. So we really have to have a rolling average. But again, in order to have a rolling average, you have to have a lot more data to go by. So,
Right.
but that being said, the microgrid again, it blows my mind sometimes how people, I don't want to use the word greedy, but they don't really see the forest through the trees. And that's what you're saying, Mad Hatter, is, by sacrificing EMP, you're essentially getting a 4x now. Again, every day it's a little less because we're going up to peg. But every time you buy EMP below peg, you are getting that peg value. And we do it for two reasons. One reason is that it incentivizes you almost like arbitrage, where whenever you see a dip on EMP, it may be better to buy EMP off the market and then sacrifice that rather than buying somebody else's microgrid. But once we're at peg, all of the math will be in sync. Right now, again, it's unrealized gains on your microgrid, but again, you're able to sell your microgrid at any time. So it's not a sunk cost. And I know that people are actively, maybe even listing their microgrids a little bit below market value,
Mm.
even now. And so it's a great way to kind of gamify being able to find the best deal and then add that to your ownership over time. And the BBE is very, very powerful. Again, that was a great point. I think, again, some alpha for pillars. Um, Obviously, in the beginning, if you are able to BBE, which is essentially called buyback and earn, it allows you to auto compound your rewards and buy more EMP off the market with those rewards, building your position and getting the full peg bonus as well while we're below peg. So, again, not financial advice, but while we're below peg, it makes financial sense to be BBEing and earning way more than what you would earn in the batteries.
Right. Yeah, and it's the best way to just increase your position, right? As you said, it's all about
Sure.
getting that position. You have maintained. You were saying it was Spark Swap. You were saying it well before Fusion launched. You have been filtering into almost every conversation we've had. It's about your share of the pool. You've been conditioning people to understand that that is what it's about. That's where the value is. Obviously, the higher percentage that is shown that you have in terms of ownership, the more money you're going to eventually get back. And there are several factors that are going to impact how much that will be, not just the external revenue streams, not just EMP reaching peg, but also the price of Ethereum, the exposure you're maintaining to Ethereum, and what Ethereum eventually can do for the ecosystem also. Can you talk on that a tiny bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, the reason we've kind of laid the groundwork to really understand in the fact of pool ownership is because EMP again is a fixed supply. So unlike Sparkler, where again the strategy on Sparkler is a little bit different because you want to be always earning enough Sparkler, or I'm sorry, earning enough Spark to feed your Sparkler and keep up with your pool share. or what we call dilution from other players entering. With EMP Fusion, there is only a certain amount of EMP out there, and so whether you're sacrificing EMP directly or sacrificing other assets that then go and buy EMP off the market, there will be a finite amount that you of EMP that is in that is possible. So that is super bullish because again, as we move to having maybe 1 million or 2 million EMP liquid in total, that means all of the EMP will be in Fusion, and what you're earning cannot be diluted. And so this is also really bullish because as we increase our revenue, we're rewarding more revenue over the same amount of people. So with that mathematical equation, the APR and yield will only go up in value because there is no possible way that you can be diluted with other entrants. Now, again, that is also really bullish for the secondary market value because we could even see microgrids trading above peg value when the yield is so good and nobody wants to sell because they're making so much APR, through Fusion. So again, the game theory and economics only get stronger the farther out we go. So that is another really cool part of how we've designed things.
We're talking about the microgrids and the ability to buy them through the marketplace, sell them through the marketplace. And one of the things that you spoke about, which is great in terms of visuals, also great for understanding the ecosystem. And actually, a very quick shout out to LA on this one. She said not too long ago to myself and David that actually this ecosystem is very easy to understand once you're in it. Once you know how it works, it's really not hard. It feels intimidating. If you were to just look at the white paper, you're going to be very intimidated. If you just listen to the language, it could be quite scary. For anybody that is unsure but really is curious about how it works, I recommend you throw $5 into it to open up the dashboard fully so you can take a look, because once you're in, it's very self-explanatory. It's all very, very clear. But one of the things you're doing to make it even clearer is you can see the marketplace has microgrids at the minute. And I actually like that you've left some of you're not taking any of these orders down, especially the ones that are trying to scam. There's a guy that's selling one sacrifice point for 1,177. There's another person trying to sell 24,500 sacrifice points for $4.8 million, it seems. And these are just chances, the people that are trying to do something ludicrous. You guys are going to be implementing something where on the dashboard, it will show you the actual true value of those microgrids versus what people are offering. Is that right?
Yes, brother, 100%. So again, I mean, because of the decentralized nature of the contracts, we can't just remove somebody's listing. But yeah, we can absolutely make it a lot more obvious that, maybe it's green if it's at market value, it's, yellow, if it's below market value, or red if it's above market value. So we're coming up with a bunch of ideas, whether it's just dollar value conversion so that people don't have to do the math on their own, or a visual representation, or maybe even both, that make the marketplace even more fair, so to speak.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, the thing to take away is, and it's very, very simple to understand, as long as we are below peg, your best value is buying EMP directly and sacrificing it. So again, there are a few microgrids that are under even EMP value, but they're few and far between. And again, the secondary market will be a lot more volume as we get back to peg anyway. So that is
Right.
still the main focus.
For sure. Another thing in terms of visuals, your live current external revenue streams, your portfolio, for example, that is feeding Fusion. I understand that the plan is also to have visuals for that, so people can
Yeah.
see what you're generating live, how it's being fed into Fusion. And I really like that idea because not only is it as transparent gets, but is hopefully going to placate people that are constantly wanting to understand, well, how much am I making? Where are we making it? Well, when are we going to be able to make more? It will give them that. I guess it's maybe the dopamine hit that they're looking for, is being able to look at the big numbers and say, wow, those big numbers are going to translate to X amount of percent for us here. Do you have an idea as to when that's going to come in and how that might look?
Yeah, brother, I love it. So again, we get this question all the time. I mean, as transparent as we can be, LA and I don't have the time to create spreadsheets and be, professional accountants while we're still building all the infrastructure and managing the community and doing these AMAs. There's not enough time in the day. However, our partners at Dex Finance, they have a very similar model that they've been able to put together with their treasury earnings. And so utilizing that, tech and code, we absolutely feel like in the next few, months or however long it may take, that will be something that we implement. And yeah, that will be 100% on-chain data of where the money is coming from, where the money is going, and continue to further, the unfuddable math. So yeah,
Right.
man.
Yeah, I'm super excited when that's implemented. It's going to be
Yeah,
really the first few steps towards people saying, okay, now things are falling into place, and those visuals really help. You're making it almost, I don't want to say idiot proof. I don't want to call people idiots. You're not idiots. Some people are just lazy, but it is making it idiot proof, right? Um,
for sure, brother.
it's making it so that you really, anybody can truly understand it. Now, when you look at it, it can be scary. You see these batteries, or you hear that there are batteries. Do I need batteries? How do I sell my position? Is it sunk cost? Because you're telling me I'm sacrificing something. It isn't sunk cost. You have various ways in which you can cash out. Those include buying a $15 battery, and that will determine whether it's BNB, whether it's ETH, whether it's USDT, or even split my position, which means you can split it between X tokens, and you retain full control over that. So you can really pick and choose as to how you want to be paid out. Could you briefly talk through what those batteries mean, and how easy really they are to not just purchase but also activate?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and this plays into a question I see in the chat as well. So, yeah, the cash out mechanisms of Fusion, there are two options. Well, I guess technically three options. So, the first option is the BBE that we had already discussed. That, again, not financial advice, is probably what everybody should be doing in the beginning while we're below peg to build your position. Now, again, I get it. Some people don't have a long-term vision, they want to cash out immediately, you would just buy a battery. And so again, we've made things extremely simple. And again, once you look at the UI, it is very simple. Even though the concepts while we're talking may sound, very complex. But there's only 4 battery options available in the MVP. So again, we did choose to really simplify EMP Fusion. We're calling it our MVP, or minimal viable product. And not only did we do that because of different development constraints, but more so just to make people familiar with the protocol before we start adding even more options. So right now the batteries are unlimited, meaning once you buy that battery, you own it forever. We will be adding at a later date um, a capacity to your batteries where they can only earn so much, and then once they fill up, those rewards are no longer earned. Or you can upgrade your battery to have a higher capacity and earn, a lot more. Not in terms of percentage, but a lot more without having to check your rewards every day or once a week or whatever it might be. And again, all of those are convenient upgrades, not mathematical or earning upgrades. So, but yeah, you buy a battery right now. We have ETH, BNB, and USDT. You buy that battery, you can activate one or all of them, and you can choose what percentage of energy rewards go to each one of those batteries as well. So it's very customizable. And once it reaches a $15 minimum threshold, you can hit claim, and it will sell the energy or E-share under the hood and reward you in actual blue chips. So again, actual BNB, actual ETH, or actual USDT, and you continue the process all over again. So, and then the third way to cash out would be to sell part or all of your microgrid. And again, you would do that with the split my position battery. You buy that battery, again, $15, and you'll be able to sell your sacrifice points on the market. So that would be the third way to cash out. And again, all of the fees, the $15 fees and 3% of all the other transactions, all of those go to microgrid holders as rewards. So that's how Fusion is self-sustaining and its own revenue stream, even without the external revenue.
Right. Yeah, great. Thank you. And like we said a couple of times now, it sounds complex. If you're interested, I highly recommend just throwing a couple bucks in to open it up. Get to learn the lay of the land, understand what it is. I mean, I myself, I'm used to playing with these kind of things. And I was messaging the guys, I'm going to own this mistake myself so that you can't
I
hold it
love
over
it.
me,
I
AJ.
wasn't going to bring it up, Madhatter.
I
Yeah,
know.
man, I'll let you do
I'm
the
owning it.
honors.
Um, so I messaged the guys in the back end to say, oh, what's happened? Are you meant to lose a battery when you deactivate it? Because I had activated a battery. And just for anybody kind of interested, obviously the minimum claim amount on these batteries is $15. But if you deactivate a battery, it automatically pays out for you as is. And it's only $1 to deactivate or activate. So you're paying a very minimal fee to get that done. But I had deactivated a battery and couldn't see it on the battery dashboard and was freaking out and thought I'd lost it. And it turns out it was split my position. So it just has its own separate tab. But all it takes is a couple of times playing with it. And, rather than asking the silly question and making yourself look foolish, and you very quickly learn how it all works.
Sure.
Obviously, I'm scanning through the community questions, and I'll be asking some of those questions in a second. The DaaS contracts, how are they going to be supported by this? That's one thing that I'm sure a ton of people are going to be asking and saying, hey, I invested a lot into this. I've won the lottery X amount of times. I thought I was going to, get some nice amount out of this. Am I still expecting that to go up? Are we going to expect an increase in those contracts, the detonator, the reactor? Will we ever be able to sell those positions on the marketplace, for example?
Yeah, so again, this is another great point and something that we don't shy away from. I mean, obviously, when we released the DaaS contracts, we said from day one that they were financial games. They are not, annuities or certificates of deposit. They are simply a gamified way of participating in a lottery and also earning rewards while helping us deepen our liquidity in the LP tokens. And a lot of people made money and a lot of people haven't made money. And unfortunately, that's just the nature of the beast. But instead of us just saying, oh, well, we are doing everything we can to help revitalize those contracts. And so over the next week, we'll be migrating each one of those one by one, where instead of just claiming your rewards, and this also applies for nodes and Sentinel and Defender NFTs. Any of our legacy contracts, other than the Power Up NFTs on Ethereum, all of this will apply. So rather than being able to claim your, and again, let's just use one to be specific. So instead of being able to claim your EMP ETH LP from Detonator and put it in your wallet, and then eventually sell that EMP or use the EMP to sacrifice or whatever you want to do, we are requiring you to sacrifice into Fusion. Now, again, before people get upset, even if you don't want to participate in Fusion, you will always be able to sell your microgrid. So again, we are adding a separate step, but we're not locking anybody out of those contracts. And the hope of doing this is it will reduce all of the selling pressure from those contracts and actually help us revitalize all of those contracts. So the idea is that all the incentives are already in place, and as we saw originally, Detonator was extremely popular because of all those incentives for the longest time. The reason it became unpopular is because we were below peg and there was more claiming than people going in. But now with these fixes, and again going to peg again, we hope that it will revitalize and make it attractive to where you may want to speculate on going into Detonator to earn more sacrifice points than if you would just sacrifice directly. So, and the reason that we don't allow you, at least at the moment, to sacrifice your position in any of those contracts into Fusion is again what I mentioned earlier. We don't want unwanted dilution from everybody else. So the money has to come from somewhere, and the EMP has to come from somewhere. So we can't just let everybody sacrifice because then the sacrifice points would be 100 million instead of 60. So yeah,
Right.
hopefully that makes sense, Mad Hatter. But we're doing everything we can to help supplement those for sure.
It does make sense, and I think where as EMP rises, as you said, and as this project becomes more and more popular and people start really seeing the value in it, I think those contracts inevitably become quite juicy looking to people, especially if you're keeping how they actually work, the lottery system, what the payout is, but you're simply asking people to then sacrifice into a position within Fusion. I think they could be actually quite popular and quite fun. It's just another element, another game that people can enjoy and speculate
For
on.
sure.
So yeah, um, if I am selling a position in the marketplace and it's continually getting rewards, do those rewards get auto claimed when it's sold? Do I get those rewards as a seller? Does the person buying get those rewards? How's that currently working?
Yeah, that's a great point. Again, that was a question I meant to answer earlier from the comment. So, as it
Mm,
works at the moment, if you're putting your sacrifice points on the market, again, you can. That's the other really cool part about split my position. I mean, some people, again, with the peg bonus, they may have $100,000 microgrid value. Well, it would be really hard to find a buyer of all $100,000 worth. So you're able to sell literally, just $10 or so. Again, there's a minimum, but you're able to sell a very small portion of your microgrid at any time, or list, the entire thing at once, whatever you want. But that being said, when you do list those, it takes the those sacrifice points out of the reward pool. So literally, not you or the buyer will get any pending rewards. You're essentially foregoing the daily rewards because you have your item up for sale. So, again, just like a rental property, if you're trying to sell the property, you can't really have tenants in it. So, yeah, that
right.
was the whole concept behind it.
I'm looking forward to and very interested in seeing what that does for the marketplace and these microgrids once people start talking about things like that. And you've kind of weeded out the people that are trying to take advantage, and you're seeing some genuine prices because there will be
For
people that
sure.
might factor that in and perhaps lower their prices a little to encourage a quick sell or a quick buy. I think that's going to be the really fun part about this.
Yeah,
AJ,
for
I'm
sure.
aware we've had you for almost an hour. You've probably got another AMA after this, so we won't keep you much longer. We're going to run the giveaway now. As people know,
All
they've
right,
got to be
awesome,
in.
brother. Yeah,
Yeah, they've got to be in your Discord in order to be eligible. So we're just going to ping the Discord link. As I said at the top of this conversation, this wasn't going to be a traditional run through. If you want to hear one of those, I recommend listening to the EMP AMAs themselves or jumping into the Discord and just going through the full list of AMAs that they are doing at the minute. There are a ton of really informative run throughs that are an hour. This was going to be, I wanted this to be slightly different, I think, for something this big. I wanted it to be a little bit of a different conversation, a bit more free flowing. But is there anything that you wish I had covered, I haven't, you really want to touch on before we go?
No, Madhatter, again, brother, you're the best in the business. You covered everything. You and David are true professionals. So, yeah, I think that was it. Again, to your point, we're always doing education and tutorials on our own YouTube. You can find us at emp.money. Again, please just give us another week or so with your patience, fixing all the UI and APR intricacies. But I can assure you all that, everything from a contract standpoint is working flawlessly, and it will all settle out in the end. And just to readjust your expectations, again, I think Matt Hatter said it perfectly. I mean, this is a protocol that will generate real yield for literally years to come. And if you go in with that mindset, the APRs are actually incredible. And again, if you're looking for 1000X or the next meme token, then EMP Fusion might not be for you. But I built, again, a multi-million-dollar portfolio on investing in projects that are a slow and steady return, and then using those, income, then to speculate on the 1000X plays. So we're
Right.
really trying to build, again, and we keep saying it, but we're building a mothership or a home base that everybody can rely on, and really, grow as we all stay in crypto for the years and decades to come. So yeah, man, we're really
Great.
excited. It's been a culmination of a lot of work. Ella and I try not to get too emotional, but it's been a labor of love, and the community has really rallied around it for sure.
Yeah, you guys deserve to get a bit emotional. There's a ton of hard work, blood, sweat, and tears that go into these things, and people don't really realize how hard it is in the back end. Doing all of the building, then front facing, having to answer all the questions, and deal with all of the people that are asking the same repetitive things over and over, those that are disgruntled, those that aren't getting their way. It's a lot to juggle, especially when you're creating a brand like yours and you're a team that wants to do things the right way, be trusted. Um, I
Sure.
don't want to upset males, so I'm going to ask their question as one last question. Then they understand the nodes that the nodes can't be sacrificed, but the APR is supposed to rise with Peg. Is it a UI issue, and that's one of the things that you're going to be resolving, maybe between the emp.money site and Fusion?
Yeah, this is a great question for mail. So yeah, the nodes are a separate beast, so to speak. Obviously, in the original Tomb fork model, we were able to subsidize the APRs on nodes when we were at Peg because it got a percentage of the inflation that EMP produced. Now, obviously, we are getting away from the inflation, so we can no longer use the boardroom to supplement node APRs. However, because there is actual EMP in those nodes, again, another bullish metric. I mean, there's probably, last I looked, there was like 2.5 million EMP in nodes. So that's EMP that's not part of the circulating supply. But we are looking at really creative ways to let people at least get out what they put in to nodes without hurting, the rest of the protocol. And again, allowing you to earn more through Fusion. So, yeah, that is a bit of a separate math endeavor, but we are actively working on that for sure.
Great, thank you. I encourage everyone to jump into the Discord, take a look at the website. We're going to pin that as well. At the moment, I think it's a 4x from now to Peg, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that
Maybe
sounds about
slightly
right. I
under.
think,
Yeah,
yep, a
it's
little less. I think we're at 85 cents would be at
right.
peg, something like that. So yeah.
So that is a massive amount that you can get as a bonus for sacrificing now. So if people are interested in this ecosystem, I highly recommend they look, because right now is the best it's going to be. EMP is not really dipping very much at all. We're talking maybe 5% max. before it gets
sure.
another buy and it rallies up again. So really, I'd watch that chart to get the best value. Start looking at it now. AJ, it's been a real pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much. I'll let you go. LA, always a pleasure having you in. Guys, really, congratulations. When Fusion is now a question you want to answer, which I think is great. And
Yes,
I'm
brother.
very impressed with what you guys have created. I think a lot of other people are too. And I think this is just going to get stronger and stronger as your brand grows. So please keep it up. And I really look forward to having many more conversations about other projects that you're bringing to the table that are going to feed into Fusion.
Amazing, brother. Thank you, and shout out to, again, the entire Pillars community. At one point, I think we had almost 100 people here. So
Yes, we
thank
do.
you to all of you for the amazing support. And yeah, man, we're going to, again, I'd like to leave every AMA saying that we are going to continue building. So yeah, really bright future ahead.
Great. Well, thank you, AJ. Thank you, LA, and thank you everybody for listening today. I wish you guys the best for the rest of your day. Take care, everyone.
Cheers. Bye bye.